cabinet secretary's got certain responsibilities, and a president's got to get elected, and people. But when you have someone from the outside come in and make some tough cuts, you could say, I don't have my hands in that. The blowback they're getting in some of these town halls is real.
Some on the right, including conservative Fox News host Brian Kilmeade, are actually fessing up to the fact that some Republican lawmakers are receiving backlash and hostility from their constituents over what Donald Trump and Elon Musk are currently carrying out in the federal government, essentially firing federal workers, potentially slashing federal government programs. However, Cenk, some Republicans apparently can't figure out why anyone would be upset.
Yeah, when you run on helping the economy and then you start firing everybody when you get in, people might get upset. Yeah. So to me, the thing that I always say is, yes, but what is this in service of? Why are they doing this? We'll explain that a little bit later.
So as just one example of the hostility GOP lawmakers are being met with, let's go to Missouri Republican Congressman Mark Alford, who was met with quite a bit of rage at a recent town hall he hosted. Now, he also decided to praise Trump and defend Elon Musk, even though the firings are affecting his constituents in Kansas City. Take a look.
Elon Musk has contracts with the federal government. But he is also, I think, doing an effective job.
Conflict of interest! Show me!
There are a lot of people who don't want to see waste, abuse, and fraud weeded out. Some of them here today.
I don't want him in charge of it.
But he is
police fraud abuse.
Now, there are thousands of federal workers living in the Kansas City area, so you can understand why he would be met with this kind of hostility. Their jobs are either on the line or they've already been fired. In fact, so far, at least 100 local IRS workers were fired. That happened last week, but Alford was not really all that sympathetic, while shockingly Kilmeade was on Fox and Friends. Nonetheless, Alford at one point was quoted as saying, just because you have a government job doesn't mean it's a lifetime appointment like a Supreme Court. So I would encourage anyone who finds themselves in this situation to realize we are going to get this economy turning again. There are jobs available. God has a plan and purpose for your life. Now, later he claimed that after the fact, like the full quote was, God has a plan and purpose for your life. You are not a victim, you are a victor. I don't know if that's supposed to make them feel better, but he wanted to make sure that we had the full statement. He also says government employees are going to be let go, and that's just the reality. I feel bad that people have been let go. I understand that. So I guess a little bit of empathy, but not much.
No, that's no empathy. He's just trying to cover his ass. So guys, sometimes when you do cuts, some cuts are necessary and some people will lose their jobs. I think that the reason people are so angry is because they didn't even ask if you're doing something wrong.
Exactly.
They just fired you.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's why they're livid about the injustice, not just that they got fired.
No, you're exactly right about that. And again, to reiterate, there is definitely bloat. There is waste in the federal government, as there is in state and local government as well. So, I mean, Donald Trump would get so much praise if they were actually doing this methodically and not allowing the richest man in the world to just, cut back on the federal government indiscriminately.
I just figured it out. So in the middle of the show, Anna, I'm like, why are they going like a runaway freight train, totally out of control? Well, what's the first story we did on today's show? The Republicans just introduced a $4.5 trillion tax cut today, right? Yeah. And so since the tax cut's gonna come up for a vote immediately, because that's their number one priority, in fact, it's almost their only priority, they have to make a giant mess about and get all this attention around, we're cutting, so they could make it seem like, we $4.5 trillion, we're gonna cut like 8 trillion, 12 trillion, so don't worry about this.
You just got that?
No, I know that the cuts were meant to allay the $4.5 trillion. That was a thing I was gonna tell the audience at the end. That's always their purpose. But I didn't understand the reckless speed. But the fact that the tax cuts were already introduced this week explains why they're going so fast and why they're being so reckless, because they got to get everybody talking about those cuts immediately. That's why they can't afford to be careful.
So some who are, look, and I want to be clear, there are a lot of Republican voters who so far have not had a problem with what Elon Musk has been up to. That exists.
No, not at all. Yeah, that's right.
So I want to be clear about something, because their argument in regard to these town halls is these aren't Republican voters, these are Democratic voters. This is, their effort to make it seem like Republican voters are pushing back against Republican lawmakers. There is some truth to that. However, there's also truth to some Republicans now turning on Donald Trump because of what Elon Musk is doing, and we're gonna give you some examples of that. But what I'm referring to is the Missouri Democratic Party. They had encouraged attendance at this town hall, including posting guidance and suggested questions on social media. Numerous federal workers and union representatives appeared to be in the audience. So there is truth to the fact that there were Democrats there, but there's also truth to the fact that in this district that this Republican lawmaker represents, there's a lot of federal workers, federal government workers, and so.
Yeah, there's one last layer to this. They realize that what right-wing voters want most is tax cuts. I'm sorry, that's their politicians, is the cuts, right? So like it seems like they're gonna lose a lot of independence with these radical, crazy cuts that people didn't vote for.
Definitely.
Yeah, and they're already losing them, and you can start seeing it in the polls, especially in Elon's polling and DOGE polling, right? But again, guys, the timing is everything, because by the time they all figure out that the cuts weren't that much at all and were realigned and redirected to the new donor class, it's gonna be too late because the tax cuts will have passed.
I want to stop paying my federal taxes.
So because
what am I funding at this point?
Because understand what I'm saying. Yeah, they're willing to. I just realized they don't mind losing the next election. They don't mind if the Democrats win the midterms or anything like that. They don't mind if they lose independence. They don't even mind if MAGA gets super mad at them later when they find out all the cuts were nonsense, because they'll have already gotten $4.5 trillion in tax cuts. That's what all of this is about.
And guys, we spent $1 trillion paying interest on our debt last year, okay? Like adding more to the debt, which clearly, based on how things are going with the Trump administration, is going to be devastating for this country. Absolutely, we spent $1 trillion last year on interest.
Yeah.
On interest, Cenk.
Look, I constantly communicate with MAGA, and I tell you their actual opinions, whether people believe me or not. And in this case, some of them are like, oh, no, that's gonna stimulate the economy. That's the same old Republican supply side economics. Oh, we'll trickle it all over you later. The rich get the money first. So a lot of them have bought into that load of crap, right? And they were on the right with that's been propaganda for 40, 50 years. But a lot of them, or some of them, are like, wait, no, you must be lying, or you must be kidding, or it must not be true. They're not really gonna do $4.5 trillion in tax cuts, are they?
Yes, they are. They are.
That's what I'm telling you. But the thing is, the rubber's about to hit the road. They're introducing the legislation this week. So some portion, certainly the independents that voted for Trump, but some portion of MAGA is gonna be like, wait, what? We're gonna add $4.5 trillion to the deficit? Yeah, because meet the new boss, same as the old boss. It's the uniparty with just a different uniform on. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.